Good evening. It is Wednesday, June 30th, 2021, and coming to you live from inside the Heat Dome in Yakima, Washington. This is the Best Lamm Sports Show. I'm your host, David Lamm. With me is my son, Parker. Say hello, Parker.
What's going on, everybody?
We got
Hey.
you got to stop one, and
They're a slow burn applause crowd.
it was there. It's a distant. We're doing a different thing tonight. I can't even describe it. I don't even know where to start. But we're live streaming on YouTube. We're on Twitter at Lamm Sports, on Facebook under the Best Lamm Sports Show. You can send us an email, lambsports@gmail.com, and please check out our webpage, www.lambsports.com. You can find links to the past shows, current trivia question on that website. First segment of the show is brought to you by The Range in Yakima. Wait, hold on. See, I don't even have the copy in front of me. You'd think I would know this all by now.
Something Garrettson Lane. The Range is your something.
You're doing all right. You're doing great. Just keep going.
I know it's at Garrettson Lane. Something smithing, Cerakote Services. The Range.
Wow, you almost hit all the main parts. The Range is Central Washington's premier indoor shooting destination at 34,000 square feet. The Range is an all-inclusive facility offering firearm training, retail firearm sales and supplies, full gunsmithing and repairs, custom builds, and Cerakote services all under one roof. Open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 7, Sunday 11 to 5. Go see our friends at The Range, 1701 Garrettson Lane in Yakima. Phone number is 509-571-1449. Make sure you mention the Best Lamm Sports Show. The Range, educate, equip, and empower. So, yeah, you almost nailed all the main talking points of that ad. I think maybe we're going to have to see if you know all the main talking points of that ad. And we'll see. We'll check it out. Next time, we'll see if you know all the next ad.
I didn't use pine tar? Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah.
Cut out a little bit there for a second. It happens.
And I'm sticking to it. That's the best part of that. Anyway, I mean, that's what we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about baseball and the stickiness of baseball, which doesn't sound right, but whatever. So
baseball's in a sticky situation.
Yeah. Not quite sure what the rub is, but anyway, we got NBA conference finals, Stanley Cup finals. The Olympics are coming, whether you want them or not. Wimbledon is going on. So much sportsing is going on right now. We're going to start with the Portland Trailblazer basketball, though, because what did they do? They went out and hired themselves a brand new coach. The Blazers' search for a head coach is over. Chauncey Billups was announced as the Blazers' 15th head coach in franchise history on Sunday. Billups was an assistant coach with the LA Clippers and has ties to Blazers GM Neil Olshey. He came from the Clippers. Billups played for 17 NBA seasons, was the NBA Finals MVP in 2004, leading the Detroit Pistons to a title. He was also accused of rape in 1997.
Yeah.
And we got to throw that out there. There was a civil case that was later settled out of court. He was never actually, I think, charged with anything.
No. It was reviewed by the district attorneys, and they decided not to charge him.
But they filed a civil suit.
And of course, he's a high-profile person.
Settled, a civil suit. And that was settled out of court. And it has led to some controversy over this particular hiring. And I think the two candidates that Damian Lillard had backed both have issues. I mean, Jason Kidd had some domestic assault issues back in the day. And this one from Chauncey Billups, I don't think it was ever a matter of who fans would like to be the head coach. I think this was...
Oh, absolutely.
This was always a matter of Neil Olshey has ties to this particular person, and...
It's his guy.
Yeah. And he was going to hire him. So how do you feel about Chauncey Billups as the head coach of the Portland Trailblazers?
I am not mad about what he brings to the team. I'm not mad about the things. If he's picked up things from the places he's been, I'm not mad about his defensive intensity. I'm not mad about his emphasis on that end of the ball. I'm not mad about what he said early about CJ and Dame, talking about trying to make them, they're already a prolific duo, but let's make them better. Let's refine it. Because he pointed out that there were offensive deficiencies. No one's talking about their offensive deficiencies. Everyone's talking about trading CJ because he had rough games, but no one's talking about their offensive deficiencies. Like it doesn't make sense. So he addressed it, and I liked all that. In terms of all the other stuff, man, I you have to believe that people can make mistakes and learn from them. You just have to believe that, because if you don't believe that, you'll be a very cynical person all the time. You'll never trust anyone. It's just not good. And not only that, we're talking 24 years ago in an instance when the police themselves looked at the evidence and decided, it's more specifically, you could say this however, you can spin it how you want. You could either say they decided not to prosecute him, or you could just say that there wasn't enough to prosecute him. It depends on how you want your narrative to go. But at the end of the day, the police looked at it and said, we're not going to do this. There's not enough evidence here to support that he committed a crime. They filed a civil suit, and he settled on it because he's a celebrity. I challenge anybody to point out a celebrity that just declined to settle a civil suit that was, making their character look poor. So that's kind of another side thing there, is that people are getting on him like, oh, well, he settled. Would you settle if you didn't do anything wrong? Yes, if you're trying to get to another team, if you're trying to sign a contract, you're in the public image. These normal rules don't apply to you and me. They're not taking my $24. They're taking this guy's $13 million. Like, it's a very different scenario. It's I feel like people have a really hard time with perspective. That being said, he addressed it in his press conference, to a little bit of extent. He talked about how it was unfortunate, how it shaped him, and how he's learned to be better and not make mistakes and things like that. He's been in no trouble since then. He's done nothing wrong since then. So now you're talking about a guy who possibly incurred a situation, or at least the prospect of a situation, and has come out the other side and realized, hey, we got to be better. We got to be smart about who we're around, who we're hanging out with. He even said that, it taught you who you're around, who to be around. And that's good. I think those are the things that you want in a coach, is who can take a bad experience and learn from it. Terry Stotts. You need to be able to take a shot and adapt and then keep going. And this guy's kind of epitomizing that. But yes, it does seem like Neil Olshey just hired his dude.
Do you feel at all that the city of Portland is going to continue to have an issue, or will this just fade away, you think?
It will fade away. It faded away prior till 5 days ago.
So
nobody in Portland was talking about Chauncey Billups' rape charge a month ago when they fired Terry Stotts. No one was talking about it. And then all of a sudden he popped up on the coaching market. Now people are like, well, hold on now. We are Portland and we have moral ground consistently. That's a stupid thing.
True.
This will go away in 2-3 months. This guy's going to start winning because they're a 40-50 win team as is.
Yeah.
And hopefully with a little better coaching, they're a 45 to 55, 50 to 60 win team. It'll go away. It will not persist to being a thing.
And something you brought up earlier, Chauncey Billups was a great defender in his NBA career.
Fantastic.
I think that's going to help the team, because that's where you can say what you want about their offense and their offensive deficiencies, if we want to talk about that, but they were very deficient defensively many times. And
it was the bulk of the problem with them.
Defense will make up for your bad offense. It will.
Right. When you're not shooting well, but you're getting stops, you're going to get more shots that aren't as, consequential.
Right. Yeah, you're gonna the more shots you take, the more shots you make. That's just kind of how it is. Not that volume's the answer, but when you make defensive stops and you get turnovers, you get more shots, and so you don't have to be as effective offensively. And still,
I just hope he has the ability to recognize defensive talent, because that seems like something that Neil Olshey does not have the ability to do. Yeah, I need him to do that.
This isn't a roster issue.
This is not a roster issue. Yeah, it's good.
Right, not a roster.
Good old Neil.
I don't mind the hiring of Chauncey Billups. I don't think it's a bad hire. I think he's he will be a good coach. He's been a good assistant coach. He's been helpful everywhere he's gone. He's a good
and he was a good player.
He's been a good player. But I think there are going to always be questions of, well, there were other people up for this job. Why did you not go with them? And that answer is as simple as, well, they didn't coach on the same team that Neil Olshey was the GM for. But I think that you could still ask that question. Did Becky Hammond get as a fair shake? will she get a fair shake? It did Mike
She will, not
did
from us.
did Mike D'Antoni? Did he?
Oh, thank God he didn't.
Did he? I mean,
Just
he
want
may
him to
he
have
may or
it.
may not have skeletons in his closet. I don't know. Maybe everybody does, and I don't know that. But it seems like more and more as we go through that no matter what you've done in your past, someone will bring it up, and someone who knows. Mike D'Antoni probably stole a candy bar from a kid when he was 12. You know what I mean? Bullied
And Portland
somebody,
will
and
brand him a
right,
thief.
he's a bully. Oh my
We
god.
don't keep those kinds of. And he settled out of court on the issue.
For
He
70
settled that dollar
70
25
cents
out of
or
court.
whatever. Oh, back in the day, it was probably only a
What an
quarter.
animal.
It was only a
It
quarter.
probably was. Like a quarter.
Yeah.
I think Becky Hammon would have been a better hire in terms of a splash. You ever see the movie Draft Day where he talks about make a splash?
Yeah.
That's literally a owner speaking into a GM's ear saying, make a splash. Do something exciting.
Right.
Clearly that was not the motive here because Chauncey Billups seemed like the hire all along.
Right.
But Becky Hammon seemed like, oh, that'd be wild, right? First
Well,
female coach, Portland Trailblazers, blah 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 blah. There's the whole narrative there. They didn't do that.
from a media marketing standpoint, I think Becky Hammond was your hire, but from a specifically coaching aspect, I it'll remain to be seen until we see what he does first of all.
Yeah.
But
Like I said, this is still a 40-win team as is. So
yeah, I think you're right. The question is does he have the coaching chops to lead the team in the tight situations to draw up plays? Is he creative? Is he going to be that guy, or is it?
We'll see who he surrounds himself with.
That's true. That's also
a big part of it. Yeah,
because we may see all brand new coaches.
It's. I hope not. I hope that he keeps some of the good things that Stott had around, some of the good coaches that Stott's had around. I hope he keeps those people. And maybe he needs a little flavor or whatever, but he's the only defensive minded person that we've had in Portland in the last long period of time. So I think it'll be fine. I think he's going to keep quite a few people around. I think it's going to be pretty good. But after a first year, we'll see how they do. That's when you'll see assistant coaches start going.
It's true. And you'll learn a lot more as we go, but it's done. So that's good. And you've sealed it up fairly quickly. So that's a good thing. And because you don't want this lingering on, and I think that's a positive. We can get moving forward.
Right.
It will remain to be seen what they do personnel wise, what they go after in the draft. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
the
know
draft will be a huge question mark because now that Chauncey's there, how much input does Chauncey have in the draft? Because it has always seemed like Olshey drafts who he wants, right, and the coach has got to deal with that. And Olshey is a terrible drafter. So I don't care if he's grabbed a couple great pieces. I know he got CJ. Everyone wants to trade him now, anyways. So right. He's a terrible draft guy. So hopefully he listens to Chauncey when Chauncey says this dude can play D. Bring him to Portland, and we don't have any draft picks.
Yeah, well, that's
so. This is all assuming that we trade into the draft.
You'd have to trade in. Yeah. Well, anyway, a lot of that's going to remain to be seen. Some other Blazer news and notes that we need to talk about. So Zach Collins, that's not him. That's Zach Collins. That one is Zach Collins. He had surgery yesterday to repair a left medial. I don't even know how to pronounce that.
Oh.
Medial malleolus stress fracture.
Ooh, medial malleolus. Yep.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. Something in his ankle. He's undergone 2 previous ankle surgeries in September and December of last year. So this is ankle surgery number 3. Is he ever going to be healthy? Because they say, eventually, but will he be good and will he be healthy enough to play? Because 3 ankle surgery seems like that would be the end.
He injured one foot in the off season. Right, he injured one foot in September in the offseason between the end of the bubble playoffs and the start of the next season. He re-injured it again in December in practices, and then he re-injured it again now in practices. Right. This guy is not healthy enough to play practice speed.
Right.
He will never. I would be surprised if he contributed anything meaningful to an NBA team in the future.
And let me put on my
he might be a practice guy.
let me put on my doctor's coat for just a minute. That your 3 ankle surgeries on one ankle tends to wreak havoc with your ability to do a couple things. Number 1 is jump.
Jump, spin, pivot. Yeah, those things are
stop.
Huge.
those are key things that your ankle helps you do.
Well,
And
as long as they're not inserting pieces like titanium rods and
it's
things
true.
like that, it's usually not that big a deal. They always say your bones and your muscles are stronger than they ever were before. But clearly, He's either pushing it too hard, which is an indictment of Portland's training staff,
Right.
or an indictment of his
His
character
training
because he won't
ethic. Yeah.
listen
Right.
to his training staff. One of those two things is happening.
I don't know. I
If it's that he's pushing it too hard. Otherwise, dude's just made of glass, man. Can't handle it. Can't handle
so
the heat.
so here's the problem with Zach Collins right now is that you can't do anything with him
Oh, well,
because
he's a free agent, so we don't have to worry about it. He's not our problem.
mm, yeah, it's true. But
He is
you're
somebody
basically
else's problem for the first time in
getting
5
nothing
years.
out of him is what
Well,
you've
that's
done.
true.
You
Well,
mean
we should have traded him last year
right.
prior to the bubble and things like that. We should
Right.
have traded him then, but now he's got zero value and costs way too much.
Right. So you can't
So
do
he's
anything with him.
gone.
And obviously paid him way too much to start with. But
Some other
that's
team might get a deal on him though. Some other team might pick him up because
sure.
he's not worth whatever he's being paid. I think it's $3 or $4 million a year, $5 million a year. He's not worth that. So some other team's going to pick him up at 1 to 2,
Right.
and he's going to go on a practice squad for a little bit, and we'll see what happens.
Hurt himself. Anyway,
And hurt.
I mean,
Pretty.
what are we talking about? We're talking about practice.
Well, practice.
We also want to talk about Carmelo Anthony. He was named the inaugural winner of the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Social Justice Champion Award, first ever one they had for. He's been a prominent figure in the fight for equality and social justice, basically in the NBA, and he's helped with other players. And I think it's a good award. Carmelo Anthony is a good person. I think.
It didn't seem like it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, did it?
Well, it didn't seem like it when he came in.
It seemed like he was a guy who was clinging to this old image of who Carmelo Anthony was, and he was kind of he's kind of grumpy about it. He wasn't cool. He seemed like he was bigger and holier than thou and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden he came to Portland and just settled right in.
Sometimes the circumstances dictate your humbleness.
I think that somebody talked to him. I think that's and this isn't to say he's not smart enough to come to this terms on his own, but I think that somebody said, "Look, dude, you are late 30s. You've been playing for a long time. Your knees creak when you get out of bed. You are not doing this anymore. So accept this role, accept the tough love here, bud. Do what you have to do and start and do it." And I will say this is one of those things I do agree with Olshey on. Olshey said to him that I want to cement your legacy. Yeah. I want to keep that intact. I don't want to ruin that. I think that that's one of the best things you could have ever said to him at this point in his career. So he's been fantastic. He's done great things on and off the court. He's been a little inconsistent on the court, but it doesn't matter. He's been great for Portland.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He has been a very more than serviceable sixth man. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I can't remember very many Portland Trailblazers sixth men that I would go, yeah, that's the guy I want. And
you're talking about 38-year-old six men.
And right, not to mention
He's an old six man.
Not to mention a senior in basketball terms.
I mean, he reminds me of those dudes at the rec that I've played with sometimes. These older guys, they come walking in, they put on a really old pair of basketball shoes, they go on the court, they miss the first 3 or 4, they don't run as fast as everyone else, and then they get hot and it's terrifying.
And it kicks in.
And then they just start nailing threes, nailing jumpers, post moving the crap out of people, and you're like, oh, there he is. And then they get tired. And then production goes right back down. You're like, there he is.
I've got 6 good minutes in me. You better find him.
I need 3 minutes of ramp up. I got 6 minutes of prime time. Then I need 3 minutes of wind down.
Yeah,
and then take me out.
And the drop off is significant. You're right.
It's pretty big. I'm gonna go from 0 for 4 to 8 of 10 to 0 for 4.
Yeah, it's gonna happen quickly. So as soon as I raise my hand, you better be pulling me out. Let's go to the trivia question. Because
I like that we broke it up this time, by the way.
It is Portland Trailblazer related. I'm trying. It's just hard. So
I think it works. You do the intro, and then we do this little break here, and then we do the.
I think whatever the lead topic is, that's what the trivia question is going to try and be about. That's what we're going to do.
I like that. Everyone, you're hearing the inner process.
So we'll talk about So we're going to talk about the lead topic, whatever it is, and right now for us, it's the new hire, and then we're going to go to the trivia question based on that. So that's what we're going to try and do moving forward. Not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying we're going to try. We're going to try.
Yeah. Do our best.
So yeah, I mean, this is episode 52, and we're just figuring out the process.
That's right.
Maybe not. We're not figured it out yet, but we're working.
What is it? Joel says, trust the process.
Just keep working it.
It's coming.
just keep. It's gonna change. It's gonna change again and again. So I appreciate all of our listeners who stick with us when we do crap like this. So not that it's crap. That didn't come out right. Anyway,
No.
the best Lamb Sports Show trivia questions brought to you by Stone Wine Estates in Hood River, the winery at the Vineyard, 3827 Fletcher Drive, and the downtown tasting room at 210 Oak Street. Go to stavenstone.com and check out their selection of award-winning wines, or make a reservation. Go taste for yourself. Call 541-946-3750. That's 541-WINE-750. You can email them info@stavenstone.com for more information. Stone, wines with personality. So the trivia question is relatively easy. I mean, I don't know. I tend to make them harder than they need to be.
Sure.
But this one I feel like is better. So Chauncey Billups is the 15th head coach in Portland Trailblazer history.
Right.
Okay. Only one of the 14 previous head coaches has a winning playoff record. I want to know who he is.
Oh.
Because that seems to be the reason why most of the Blazer coaches get fired, is they can't win a playoff series. Right? After some failed playoff exits, they go, "Oh, we got to find another coach." And that's not necessarily been the case. I mean, they don't have to, but they do. And we don't blame it on the players. Like we said, we blame it on the coach first, and then we'll blame it on the players. So, anyway. So that's the question. Who, the only one of Portland's 14 previous head coaches has a winning playoff record? Who is it?
I think I know the answer.
So there you go. All right. So we'll move along.
Because I have two guesses.
You do? Well, you don't get two guesses. That's not how this works. I don't think you understand how a trivia question works.
So here's the deal. A lot of this kind of stuff that you ask about tends to occur, and I'm going to guess this one too because I remember most of the coaches going back to like 2000 or so. A lot of this stuff happens before I was born. So I need.
Well, it doesn't.
So I get two guesses because I'm guessing on things that happened that I never saw.
There are a lot of sports that happened before I was born, and I know a lot about those.
Yeah, but
you've got to be well-rounded.
I'm just saying, you've asked 52 trivia questions, and of those 52 trivia questions, maybe one or two of them were outside of your, born to current time frame. I would say probably 35 of them were outside of my born to current time frame.
Well, I'm just letting you know the Blazers have only been a franchise since 1970. So
see, you've been alive for their entire life.
That's
the entire life of the Blazers.
50 years.
When you were born, there were no Blazers.
That's correct. There were no.
That's actually pretty wild to think about. Not that you were old enough to even comprehend that concept, but that's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah.
That you are older than this franchise.
We're not going to go into it, but there was a lot of things that weren't around when I was born. So I don't think we need to cover all that right now. But all right. Let's
didn't mean to call you out like that.
Woo. So
it was just his birthday, everybody.
In case you didn't hear it anywhere else, I'm old. And it just came out today. Apparently we just found that out
just now
on the air right now.
Live here, breaking news. David's old.
Western Conference Finals. Clippers Suns.
Right now.
We didn't even talk because it's been 2 weeks. We weren't here last week. So it's been 2 weeks. We didn't even talk about the fact that the Clippers won their series and the Suns won their series. I think we did talk about the Suns. I think they had already won.
Yes.
But
we talked about the Suns, but the Clippers hadn't finished off their series yet.
The Jazz. Was it the Jazz? Yeah, it was the Jazz.
Yeah, they rallied off 4 games in a row.
Yeah. But they're playing each other now. So this is the Western Conference Finals. Clippers, Suns. They're playing right now as we speak, and this is game 6.
Yeah.
In LA at the Staples Center. It's 82-70 Phoenix right now with 5:40 to go in the third.
Yeah, not great.
So if you're a Clippers fan, watch out.
Start praying that Kawhi comes off the bench.
Yeah, Kawhi is going to have to play in that jacket though, because he is not dressed for
this jacket.
He's going to have to play in those jeans and that jacket.
So Kawhi in those jeans and that jacket is better than anybody I've ever met in person.
That might be true. The Clippers won Game 5 to force tonight's Game 6. 116-102 over Phoenix on Monday night. Paul George had 41 points, 13 rebounds. Devin Booker led Phoenix with 31 points. game. This is game 6. Kawhi is still out. I think he's out. Period.
Yeah, he's
I
out.
think his injury
They
is
haven't announced him being done for the series, but every single
I,
game they are announcing early that
so.
he's out.
So there's a chance that if they win this series, if they win tonight and a game 7, that he may be back for the NBA Finals. I mean,
They're
that's
going
a
to have to get through
chance.
tonight. I mean,
Yeah,
at
they
the
got to win
moment,
2 more.
people, they are down 12. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not
and they
good.
don't look great tonight. I mean,
No, they're shooting terribly.
It's just off. And
Yeah.
DeAndre Ayton has 12 points and 11 boards at this point. He's double, and he's looked pretty good. Not great, but he looks like a young player. Looks, you know what I mean? He's playing against
Gets
some
up
veterans,
at times, goes down at other
and that's
times.
what Phoenix is. Phoenix is Chris Paul and a bunch of young guys.
It really is.
Playing against some veterans in the Clippers. Morris and Paul and even Patrick Beverley's been around a couple
That
of
bad,
Sundays.
yeah.
So yeah,
That's right.
this is a team that is a veteran team in the Clippers, and if they had Kawhi, this would be a different series. But
Oh my gosh, I'm looking through their roster and I'm like, Rondo, Cousins,
yeah,
Batum. It
Batum,
is a
yeah,
bunch of old dudes.
they're
Patrick Patterson.
they have a lot of playoff experience, a lot of
Jeez
NBA
Louise.
experience in general. They do, and
Yeah.
anyway, so but it looks to me like the Suns are gonna. It's 85-79. That looks to me like the Suns are the team, and we kind of figured that anyway. I think
We
because
guessed that,
they're
yeah.
younger and faster, and they just move better. And I look at them when they're hot and when Chris Paul is distributing, because that was part of their issue, I think, in Game 3. Chris Paul wasn't there to pass the ball
No.
around. When he's
Well,
playing,
and then when he was back in game 5, he still seemed not there
yeah,
all the way.
he was still struggling. I still think he's finding himself from his little injury, so I'm not sure if he's 100% healthy, but
Yeah.
he looks better tonight.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a good team. I think Phoenix is a good team. They're capable of winning the whole thing. I mean, I don't care who you throw at them, because we're going to talk about the East right now.
I don't care if it's the Bucks or the Hawks.
So
I think that Phoenix has got him.
So the Bucks Hawks. We didn't even talk about that. We haven't talked about that yet. But the Hawks, even the Eastern Conference Finals at 2 games apiece, with a 110-88 win over Milwaukee in Atlanta last night. That one was all Atlanta. I mean,
Yeah.
all Atlanta, pretty much start to finish. Lou Williams scored 21, added 5 rebounds and 8 assists, and he was good. He looked good, both ends of the floor.
Right.
Offensively, he looked like the leader that they needed.
Imagine the Hawks being more efficient with Trae Young off the floor.
Yeah, because Trae Young was out, and
Yeah.
so Giannis Antetokounmpo left the game in the third period with an apparent knee injury. Trae Young did not play for Atlanta. So the story of this series now is who's coming back to play, and is anybody going to be able to play in Game 5? And it is as a Giannis-less Bucks team better than a Youngless Hawks team. And with Giannis yesterday, they weren't better. So
Yeah, it was weird, but I think that they got shocked early by some, like, I feel like the Hawks have this "we're not supposed to be here, let's prove them wrong, playing with house money" type of mentality.
Sure.
And I feel like the Bucks are, hey, we're a championship team. So I feel like it's really easy to get punched in the mouth if you're the Bucks when situations happen. When Trae Young's out, you're like, this is going to be easy. And then they just come out and hit hard. And then did you see that quick Capella shot over the backboard?
Oh yeah, that was fantastic.
That is an example of this game. Everything was working for them.
Sure.
They started that game and it was just working. I watched trash floaters by Lou Will.
Right.
Just somehow find the rim, and I'm like, all right, you're calling it skill, but you've never really done that your career, so I'm not sure where it's coming from. It was one of those games, and then once it started happening, the Bucks were just on their heels, and that's a young group over there, and that young group just attacked somebody who was on their heels, and it was perfect. I think next game, let's say both guys are still out, Giannis and Trae.
Yeah.
I think next game, I think the Hawks are going to win it, or the Bucks are going to win it by 15 or so. I think it's going to go with the opposite. Yeah, I think it's going to go the exact opposite way. I think you're going to have settled down guys who are realizing their situation, who are, because you went up 2-1, and maybe you get this thing in your head saying, all right, we're back on course with where we're supposed to be. And maybe now you're down 2-2, and you're going, all right, we can never have that attitude. We have to have the attitude that every game is the last game. So I don't know. I just feel like the Bucks get really complacent, And when they do, it just
A-
shows. It's those trap games.
And be honest, you're not a big fan of the Hawks.
I'm not a big fan of Trae Young
Okay.
personally. I don't love. People can say what they want about attitude and spunk and things like that. There is a line in my eyes between having excitement, having attitude, and being generally disrespectful. If you do those things in a rec court and somebody kicks your ass, it's probably because you crossed a line. Does Giannis ever do much that seems like he would get his ass kicked on a rec court, not because of his size, but just because of his attitude? I would say no. Does Trae
Ow.
Young? Yes. If you're going to sit there and
Yeah.
shimmy your
Sure.
shoulders before you shoot a three, the next time you shoot a three, I'm coming through your body.
Okay.
Through your body. You can get that shot off all you want. I don't even give a shit if it goes in. Your back is going to be hitting the benches.
Okay.
So it's just one of those things where it's like, have a little tact. Understand that this is your first playoffs, Trey. And also understand that this may be your last playoffs. Who knows? You never know. You could you injured your foot on a ref's foot. You are soft as hell.
Well,
let's not ignore that.
it's true.
I don't know. I'm not a Trae Young fan, but the rest of the team though, I think is fantastic. I love Clint Capella. I love what is it? Is Bogdanovich? What I can't know. There's so many like these Eastern European name dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I love him. There's a bunch of guys on that team, and I love Lou Will. You know, Chicken Wing Lil, Chicken Wing Lou,
Chicken Wing Lou.
Chicken Wing Lou. That's right.
That's what I was.
I love Lou Will. So
that's what
I like ATL. I dislike Trae Young so much in that attitude that it overshadows all of that crap to where I then look at the other team and go, well, I don't hate him, so whatever.
That's what I was saying last night, though. I was like, he must have had some chicken wings. He must have gone to the club, had himself some chicken wings, and now he's good. So, I mean,
here's the way I would say this is that the Milwaukee Bucks are vanilla. All right, it's a very standard flavor. Everyone likes it. There's nothing wrong with it. You can eat it pretty much any time. But the Hawks are like, some crazy flavor, mint chocolate chip. It's really good when you want it.
Whoa, let's back up.
Whatever.
Mint
Hold
chocolate
on.
chip is a crazy flavor.
Mint chocolate chip,
I feel like that's a fairly calm.
Mint chocolate chip.
Okay, but
it's a calm.
And there's our second technical pause. Just a little bit. So, hold on to that thought, Parker. So, I'll wait for you to come back because you haven't quite gotten back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, you cut out. So.
Yep. Sorry, cut off.
No worries. I was just gonna say that Kevin Huerter. I liked watching Kevin Huerter. He looked really good in last night's game.
He seems pretty good. I like that. What did he name himself? Red Velvet or something?
That's a great.
I think his nickname is Red Velvet.
That's a great name.
Pretty preposterous, but
because of all the nicknames you could come up with for a pasty redheaded kid
who's got a smooth 3-point shot.
I mean, it is.
That I've still not really seen in a game, but
Well, he
has it,
and he was only 1 for 7 from 3-point last night, but he had 15 points. He had 6 rebounds, 7 assists. He did a little bit of everything and looked good doing it. He wasn't necessarily, awful, because
wasn't bad,
because he was 6 of 8 from the floor inside the 3-point line. So he made shots when he needed to, short shots. He had that mid range working and pull up and driving floaters, and he had some stuff, and he looked good. And then Lou Williams was driving hard to the basket. They looked like a team that didn't need Trae Young. I mean,
yeah, they look solid, but it's I feel like this team that you're looking at, you would give them in the preseason maybe 30 games, 35 games tops. You wouldn't expect them to win much because they're so young, because they have these pieces that are kind of mismatched and things like that. It just doesn't seem like it should work. And it worked for a night.
Right.
That's why I think if they're still both gone, Trae Young and Giannis are still both gone next game, I don't think it's going to work for 2 nights. I think it was kind of a flash in the pan that we all saw and was fun and exciting, but I just don't think it's going to last.
All right.
Yeah.
You heard it here. Parker says the Hawks suck. So
that
it's something like that. Let's move along. So what we want to talk about is Wimbledon. Wimbledon is happening, in case you didn't know. And it's since they're I don't know how many hours ahead of us in the Pacific time. They're like 8 hours, 9 hours,
something like that. Yeah,
I think they're 8 hours ahead of us. So all those games are at weird time. All the matches are weird times, and you can watch it. ESPN has some of it. You can watch a lot of the matches in real time because nothing else is on at that time. But it's one of those things that you don't get to
True.
see everything. Most of the times you're just going to see the highlights because of when it takes place. But the big news right now is that Serena Williams is out already. Round one, right? The first match, it was tied 3-3. Her opening match against Alexandra Sasnovich. Williams went down with an ankle injury, and she was forced to withdraw.
Yeah.
So she's out, and then Venus lost today.
Right.
Not that that's a big deal. Venus is not ranked anymore. Venus is
She's not as dominant
she's
or prevalent as her sister.
or young.
Or young. Is she that much older?
Not a lot, but enough.
I always thought that they were. I don't know why, but I always thought they were twins.
Oh no, Venus,
I'm
Venus
sure
is a
they're
little
not,
older, but they're neither one of them is super young, and so that makes Venus a little old.
There was just a period of time where they were never not mentioned together. It was always Venus and Serena, Venus and
True.
Serena, Venus and Serena.
It's
So I
true.
just assumed that they were like twins or they were really close in birth age.
Yeah, they're just always together. They were inseparable.
That's fair.
Yeah.
They were well. It's because they were kicking ass.
Right.
There was a period of time where they couldn't lose.
Yeah. So Wimbledon, do you watch it? Do you watch tennis at all?
Well, I don't watch a lot of tennis. I watched a bunch of it when I worked at PSU. I watched a whole bunch of tennis because I had to work the matches. I kind of got into it. It was kind of cool. It was kind of fun. But I find that it's like golf for me. When I turn it on at home, I just have a hard time focusing.
Right.
It's quiet.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of noise. It's subtle. The only sounds are the ball and then the other people grunting. Yeah, that's it. And then the occasional somebody goes point, and then the crowd does this weak little clap, and then just fades away.
Yeah.
Back to dead silence.
Yeah.
It's just not an exciting sounding sport. So I find that watching it at home, it's just not for me.
Right. Some people it's not. So it's really hard. You have this.
Being there live is fun though.
Yeah. It's better in person. You're right.
I feel like that's true with most sports too.
I think most sports, are that way.
Yeah.
Depending upon your seats. But yeah, I like watching the men's tennis part. And I'll tell you, and this is going to sound awful, but I'm going to tell you that my biggest problem with women's tennis has been Serena Williams, and I'll tell you why. She's 10 times bigger and stronger than any other woman that's out there. Shouldn't she win every dang tennis match?
Well, you would think.
She hits it harder, right? I don't know. It just seems to me like you're gifted with this frame that really doesn't look like it should be a tennis player.
No.
But she can hit the ball so hard. And once you learn how to serve it and you've got that much power and you can hit the ball that hard, now it's what do you do as an opponent? You've got to be better somehow than her, and you can't be stronger. So you've got to be more wily, got to be crafty. You got to hit the ball where she isn't and make her run, which is hard to do.
Make her move, yeah.
She's hitting it so fast, you don't have time to react.
Well, but she's a fantastic athlete, so she's
Absolutely.
probably fast, but her start time versus other smaller people, her acceleration time, like we talked about earlier, her acceleration time is probably not as great as some other people. So you're right, hit it where she's not, force her to move, make her tired because she has to expend twice the amount of energy because she's twice the size of somebody who's 100 pounds.
But like I say, it's hard to do when she hits it so hard and it's coming at you so fast that you don't have time to react and set yourself up to make that shot.
It just seems like an appropriate version, an appropriate representation of America to come into a sport that has been traditionally dominated by other countries and insert a Goliath and just crush opponents.
I mean, we're not saying anything about.
I'm not saying we're all the bad guys from the Bible, but but you're not wrong though. She looks like she belongs in other sports, but why isn't she winning? Why isn't she dominating all the time? How does this sort of stuff happen? The other thing to consider is that she's not young anymore. She's been doing this for a long time. She's been being an athlete in high level, practicing at a high level for a very long time. You said it the other day when we were talking about, football players. Injuries are bound to happen after a while. Yeah. So, and this was kind of inevitable.
And I'm not a big fan of dominance. I'm not a big fan of the fact that you have one player who just dominates everything and
crushing
all the time. Yeah.
So you like parity. You like it being distributed.
Isn't it more?
Isn't it more?
That's
not fair to the person who's dominating.
I understand, but isn't it more fun to watch a game when you don't know who's going to win?
it is when you watch a football game, baseball game, basketball game, soccer match, tennis match, when
Yeah.
you watch those things and you're not sure what's going to happen, it is more fun.
You
That
take
being said, if you have to go out of your way as a league or a division
No, I'm not
or
saying that.
whatever federation to level the playing field,
Not saying that.
it becomes a little tough.
I'm not ever saying that. What I am saying is that when you watch a PGA Tour match and it's
Right.
a PGA Tour event and it starts on Thursday, you cannot possibly tell me who's going to win. You can guess.
You can usually have an idea mid-Saturday,
Yeah, maybe.
maybe,
But still maybe not.
and even then you're talking about
Right.
4 strokes tops.
Right. But when you watch a tennis event begin, nine
Sometimes
times out of
it's
10
just
you can say, "Oh,
blowout.
I'm pretty sure that this is women's and it's a championship." Well, Serena would be a good choice to be in the semifinals at the least.
Well, have you ever turned on Alabama versus the Citadel football game?
Oh, sure. Those are
You kinda
but you
know
don't
who's
watch that.
gonna
No one watches that if you're not in the stadium. Admit
Yeah, I
it.
know.
You're
Well,
gonna,
if you're not in the stadium or you're not an Alabama fan, die hard.
yeah, you're only gonna watch
Citadel
it, the
fans
only,
don't even turn that crap
the
on.
only parts of that you're gonna watch is when they cut in and say, "Oh, they scored their 4th touchdown in the first quarter," and it's
I
28-0.
agree. Dominance is boring.
It's boring.
However, it's boring from a competitive standpoint. When you have no
Yeah.
dog in the fight, when you have no horse in the race, when you're just kind of looking at it and you're going, I want to see some excitement. It's boring. That being said, the more you watch somebody be dominant, the more you can step back and go, holy crap, this person's tearing it up.
It's impressive. It is, but
I didn't appreciate, and I'm a Broncos fan, so I'm going to use my team. I didn't appreciate Peyton Manning throwing for 55 touchdowns in 2012 because I was like, oh, we're just kicking people's asses, hell yeah.
So,
but there are people around me who are like, man, this is unreal.
yeah.
Like we were watching this guy do some crazy stuff. And I feel like that's kind of how it happens is dominance is boring at first. It's kind of boring in the middle. And then eventually you gain an appreciation for it and you go, oh man, this is really impressive to watch.
It's true.
So it's kind of boring for a while.
Are you watching the Phoenix and Clippers game?
I'm not watching it. No,
okay.
no.
It's on my TV, and I just briefly want to say that there's 55 seconds left to go in the third, and Phoenix still leads by 12. We're reviewing a play post-basket where Chris Paul took an elbow to the chops from DeMarcus Cousins.
An actual elbow?
It
not
is
not like a flopped bow.
It's a both. I'm not gonna lie.
So he tapped him, and
I'm not
homeboy went down hard.
I'm not going to lie, but this is a flagrant foul is what they're calling because it was after the play. DeMarcus Cousins got the ball. He's trying to go. He looks like he's trying to go out of bounds to go inbound the ball. And Chris Paul's under the basket coming out. But there is clear to me.
Oh, it's after the play.
After the play. Yeah.
That's ejection worthy.
It's clear to me that his elbow isn't in a natural spot. He's all complaining about it right now. But when you watch it, and somebody's going to watch it, his elbow is not in a position that it comes out away from his body like it shouldn't have. It was up already because he's grabbing the ball, but there's some clear intention there.
The problem is that people are such good, great, fantastic actors.
Oh, absolutely, and he sold it.
That DeMarcus Cousins was doing just some normal thing that he normally does.
Oh no, this was not. You can see that it's not quite normal. That's what I'm saying. I would give him the benefit of the doubt if it looked like a normal, but his elbow is in one spot, and then as Chris Paul goes by, his elbow's just a little further out. Just a little bit out, because I just wanted to make contact a little bit. It's subtle, and you'll see it, and I'm like, well, okay. It's just enough where if I was watching it on replay alone, I'd say, yeah, that was intentional. You could have clearly pulled your elbow down because you saw him coming. It wasn't like a sudden thing. But you put it out just a little further.
I just watched it. It's soft. It's soft. It's soft basketball. It's soft basketball by DeMarcus. It's soft basketball by Chris Paul. And the refs don't need to dignify that with their time.
Okay.
That is nothing. That is two super soft players being super soft and trying to work on one another. Let me rephrase that. DeMarcus Cousins is kind of not soft in this instance. He kind of maybe went out of his way to do something. But Chris Paul threw himself to the ground like some Euro 20 soccer player.
Sure.
And sat there like his world was over. Like, get the hell out of here. I'm over it. I'm over the NBA and these quote fouls and all the flopping they do. It's just getting old.
I hear you, but this is the kind of stuff that you have to stop, because if you don't call it now, then eventually it leads to even further. I can
If
stick it
Chris
out
Paul
just a
doesn't
little
fall to
further.
if Chris Paul doesn't fall to the floor, are they still stopping to review it?
I don't know.
The answer is no.
Probably
The
not.
answer is no. The answer is no. The answer is like 95 to 98%
Doesn't
no.
doesn't mean it wasn't a foul.
Oh, it doesn't mean it wasn't a foul. You're absolutely right. But the answer is that they wouldn't have even stopped it. It took Chris Paul doing something that is by definition illegal and flopping after a foul. Whether the foul occurred or not is fine. You call the foul. But then he flopped afterward. He threw himself on the ground. He drew attention to the instance, because that's the only way you're going to get these dumb officials to call something. It's the way the league is run now. You have to get the dumb officials to pay attention to what's happening on the court, because they're so focused on the basket and the superstars that they're not paying attention to everything else.
Yeah.
It's just soft, you know. And I like I said, I've watched it 2 or 3 times now. It's just weak, man. Like, you know, did DeMarcus Cousins do something out of the ordinary? Sure. Did Chris Paul do something out of the ordinary? Absolutely.
Sure.
You could argue that Chris Paul for sure did something out of the ordinary, and DeMarcus Cousins may have.
Sure. But it's not illegal to fall down.
It's illegal to flop.
Okay. But if there was contact,
you have to define flop and blah blah blah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Again, it's all soft. It's all soft shit. The fact that we're talking about this is what makes it soft. The fact that you have a debate or a discussion about whether or not this was a foul and whether or not him falling to the ground was appropriate is what makes it soft. Back in the day, you took an elbow to the face, but you went down because your nose was bleeding.
We're not back in the day. We're not.
I know.
We've been out of the day for 20 years.
Hey,
Because
it doesn't matter. We're just pointing out a time that was more appropriate in terms of how fouls were called.
The NBA's evolved into this where you have to flop. If you're not going to get calls, and you have to flop. And
I largely think that's because that's an official directive by the NBA to ignore certain crap until it becomes apparent.
And then they call this foul on DeAndre Ayton down at the other end of the floor, on a shooting foul. He didn't even touch him. And I'm like, okay, so
looks like a makeup call.
It does. It absolutely looks like a makeup call now. And he got a technical for it because he said something to the referee. And I'm like, you're not wrong.
This game is not far enough out of reach for him to be talking that much trash. He needs to chill.
Well, the referees need to call.
It's really close.
Call the game, but you can't let it get out of hand, and that's what I'm saying. You can't let if you let what DeMarcus Cousins did go,
right,
regardless of what Chris Paul does. If you let it go, you're never going to be able to call a foul on anybody. You can't, because you don't have a leg to stand on. You have to call that and stop that.
That's
or the next time someone does it, they're going to complain to the league and go, look, it's the same exact foul. And
that's the way it should be. You shouldn't be able to have a leg to stand on. But that's not true. I watched Paul George get absolutely mauled the other day on the way to the hoop. And then I watched him come down and put an elbow into somebody's chest on a drive. And then he didn't get called, but they called a foul on them.
Right.
It seems like you shouldn't be able to do this, but it's a soft league.
I got it.
You can do whatever.
You can,
the refs can do whatever they want with no consequences.
Right.
And that's the problem.
Understood.
The league will take advantage of whatever the refs are allowing. That's just how it's always going to be. You should never blame the players for drawing fouls, for flopping. You shouldn't do it. It's soft. It's weak. I don't like it.
It's a product.
But you really shouldn't blame it. It's a product of what the league is allowing to happen.
Right.
So if you have a problem with Chris Paul flying to the ground, if you have a problem with Paul George throwing bows but getting fouled, if you have a problem with these things, that is the NBA. That is their directive, or offense or defense or whatever the hell they're trying to get out of these series is their directive. And it's weak officiating.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So second half of the show brought to you by Boss Kitty Hand-Dyed Yarns. Be sure to tune into BossKittyLive.com, 6 p.m. every Monday and Wednesday, and 11 a.m. every other Sunday for fun fiber games, tutorials, the occasional F-bomb, and trust me, it happens. That's Boss Kitty Hand-Dyed Yarns. Yarn so boss, you'll knit your pants. So second half of the show, we got to move a little faster. We got a lot of things we still want to talk about.
We can do that.
So Stanley Cup Finals currently happening. That's a real thing, believe it or not. And Game 1 went to Tampa Bay pretty much easily. They won 5-1 over the Canadians. Nikita Kucherov broke open a 2-1 game with 2 goals in the third period to give Tampa a 4-1 lead, and then Steven Stamkos took a Kucherov pass and added his 8th goal of the playoffs to make it 5-1. And this was on Monday night.
Right.
which was game 1. Andrei Vasilevsky stopped 18 of 19 Montreal shots for the win in goal. Game 2, right now, on NBC Sports. If you're watching, the Lightning lead. Oh, it's final.
Final.
It's
3-1.
final. It's 3-1 Lightning. So they take a 2-1 series lead, or a 2-0 series lead, I'm sorry. But we're going back to Montreal. So it'll go Montreal for game 3, and that, if my calculations are correct, should be Friday. So
That sounds about right.
yeah, sounds about right. So Tampa Bay, defending champions. I'm going to put my money right there. I know they're up 2-0, and it makes it easier to make that call, but I would have said that before the series too. I think Montreal's magic carpet ride has run out. So
I would say that's exactly what it is. It's a team that has wormed their way into this spot
right
through whatever it is, and now they're getting kind of exposed.
Yeah. So I'm
they've given up 8 goals, 8-2 goals
8-2 in 2
over
games.
the past 2 games.
Yeah,
like, come on now, you're not doing great.
It's not great, is it?
No, terrible.
Yeah, they're gonna have to step up the defense. All right, so let's talk about Formula One that happened on Sunday. Max Verstappen went wire to wire to win the Styrian Grand Prix in Austria last Sunday. It was what we in the sports industry refer to as a snoozer. Lewis Hamilton was second, and Valtteri Bottas finished third. Verstappen leads the season points race 156 to 138 over Hamilton. Sergio Perez, Verstappen's teammate at Red Bull, is third with 96 points. They're racing again in Austria this weekend, and that'll be on Sunday, usually on ESPN or ESPN2. I'm not sure which one has it, but it's early. So if you got to get up at like 4 if you want to watch it in real time. Otherwise, it'll be on again. They'll show a replay later that day, or you can record it or whatever. But qualifying was Saturday. The race is Sunday. So it'll be interesting.
Something interesting I learned about Formula One
Yeah.
just the other day is that since 2000, right? So since 2000, there have only been a handful of teams that have won F1. Mercedes has won, Red Bull has won, Ferrari has won, and then in 1, 2, and 3, and 4 years, there's been McLaren, Braun, and Renault. So 4 years of the last 20 years has somebody not named Red Bull, Ferrari, or Mercedes won. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of competition in the sport.
To be fair, there's only 10 teams in each season.
I hear what you're saying. But it's just barely consistent. Mercedes has won it for the last how many years?
They've been fairly. Ferrari was the team, and then they went through some issues, and now it's Mercedes that's been the dominant one. Red Bull has kind of pulled back into that, into the lead. They're in the lead overall this year, and it's interesting to watch. I've only been watching it for 2 years. I watched it last year, and I watched it this year. So far, I've watched every race this year, and it's interesting to watch. It is an interesting sport. You learn a lot every week. I'm learning something new, and it's I like it a lot as far as auto sports go. And I'm not a big auto sports fan. This is probably the best one to watch, just in general terms.
It's exciting, yeah.
It is, and the qualifying is fun to watch. The way it happens is fun to watch.
I think the qualifying is the most exciting part.
I do. I think you're right. I think it's a lot. It's interesting, and just the way it happens. I like the event setup, and it's good, and you can see some competition. Some tracks are better than other for competing, but some of them are just set up where the pole sitter is going to win if they don't have an accident.
Right.
If nothing happens. So there's that, but it's I guess that's that way with most every racing thing. If the pole sitter does what he's supposed to do, he should win, right? That's the reason he got there, was because he was the fastest car. So odds are, if he just stays the fastest car and stays out of somebody else's bumper, he'll usually win. But anyway, yeah. And then when you get into NASCAR, the thing I don't like about NASCAR is that there's 500 cars on the track, and somebody makes a mistake, makes the wrong turn, and it wipes out 6 cars, and somebody who was right behind, drafting off another guy who might have had a chance to win, is out because somebody else screwed up. And this still happens in Formula One, but since there's only 20 cars, it's not nearly as prevalent. You don't see those gigantic pileups like you see in NASCAR. So the odds of your driver getting taken out by someone else are slimmer. Still happens, but it's much less likely to happen. And then NASCAR in their dang finals, their end of season set of races where they're racing for the championship, but all the other players, but all the other racers get to be in there too and race in those same races, does not make sense to me. I have never understood why a guy who is 30th in the point standings is in this race to determine who becomes the champion when he could just swerve and take out 6 guys and determine who the champion is.
Sure.
And I don't I feel like that's not fair. Um, it should be just
Well,
those guys that have a chance to win. They should narrow it down, and those guys should race, which would be boring because there wouldn't be any crashes. And there, but
no excitement.
I
Yeah.
know I get it. But it's just to me, it feels like you don't see that in the NBA. They say, oh well, we're gonna let all the teams in the playoffs, so that team who's in last place has a chance to take out injure one of the superstars on the number one team and
Well,
knock
whether
them
you
out.
agree with it or not, that's what they're doing with the extended playoffs, the play-in.
Yeah, but the number the play in is not number 8 versus number 1. You know what I
No,
mean?
no, no.
It,
It's number. Yeah, you're
yeah,
right.
it's
It's
not the
number 10
last place.
versus number
Yeah,
6,
so
and yeah, I get what you're saying.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you let the last place team race against the first place team or play against the first place team, there's a chance someone gets injured in that game when the
I
first
get
place
it.
team
I
is
get it.
clearly going to win anyway. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's the only thing I have. Not a big deal, but
Well, but the difference here, we're talking about team sports
team sports.
versus individual sports.
It's true.
Whether or not you want to say that the pit crew is a team, which they are part of
and
the
there's 2
team.
racers that
But
race
yeah,
strategically as a team. Let's talk
right.
about the Olympics.
Olympics.
The Olympics are coming.
2020-ish.
Yeah. So they're the 2020, 2021. I don't know how you phrase it now. I mean, do you call it the 2020 Olympics? Anyway,
Well, they're calling it the Euro 2020, so why wouldn't you just call it the
right.
2020 Olympics?
I guess. They're coming soon. We just wanted to give everyone a heads up. In Tokyo, the opening ceremony is scheduled for July 23rd. Events will
Right.
start on the 21st. If you haven't seen the medals, they're on the screen right now. They're kind
They're
of
cool.
Yeah, they look really
Yeah.
good. More classic round medals. You know, I like
Right.
that. I don't like the weird artsy ones. To be honest with you, I want a medal round. Says I want.
Right.
But all of the coverage is going to be on NBC's Olympic channel, and there's a few other NBC networks you'll find it on, like NBC Sports and whatnot. But primetime coverage will be on NBC almost every night. So check your local listings for the coverage in your area. Are you excited to watch the Olympics at all? Is there an event that you like watching?
Basketball and soccer.
Okay. Is there
Basketball and soccer are the 2 most exciting events.
Is there an individual event that you like watching?
Track, the 100 meters.
Okay, fast one.
The true
Sprints.
true sprinters.
Yeah.
Yeah, the true sprinters are kind of fun to watch because, I mean, you have no perspective for how fast they're going. You're watching them run around track with other people that can run super fast, and you're like, oh, he's barely beating him. But then I like to think about myself in that situation. I go, that dude is lapping me.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane to think about. You know, he's already getting water and being cooled off, and I'm halfway around the track.
At best, I'll be 3/4 of the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's an insane thought to me. So I would say the sprinters are pretty fun. Soccer and basketball for team stuff. You know, the high divers are always fun to watch because you watch them do some crazy stuff, but you can only watch it for 20 minutes. And you're like, all right, this dude isn't splashing. That's kind of the end of that. Like, he does this cool little flippy do and then doesn't splash. That's it.
Cool little flippy do. Yeah, I tend to not like those events that are judged.
Oh yeah, the judged ones are tough.
I like
Put
watching.
some points on it, damn it.
I like watching diving. I don't because I could never do what they do. It's pretty amazing to me.
I don't know, man. I could throw a wicked cannonball out there.
Oh, I can spin all day. I just can't hit it at the end. It's going to be a belly flop for sure. But I feel but I can't watch it because there's always one judge that gives it how it's not
and a 5 from the German
it's
judge.
so subjective. There's objective points to it. You have to do this and this and this because that's what you said you're going to do. But the scoring overall has this artistic element to it. And I'm like, that makes it really hard. That's why you always see the East German judge giving the United States a bad score and the United States judge giving the Russian.
See, East German judge?
Well, back in the day, you know.
I was say we don't have those anymore. It's just the German judge.
I still think they're there. Don't tell me they're not still some East Germans. Anyway, they're just calling themselves Germans now, but they're still, you know. Let's talk about Tour de France. That's happening also right now.
TDF. Nice.
Over in TDF over in France, by the way. And in case you missed stage one, and you probably did because I did. I didn't see it. I didn't even know it was happening. Started on Saturday, and stage one. I'm showing you some pictures right now. Some bloodied uh, riders. That there was a gigantic crash. This lady carrying a sign that, as far as I can tell, says, "Let's go, Grandma and Grandpa." Which that's as far as I can tell. That's what it says. Alle in French, ALLEZ, which I think is "Let's go," and then it says Opie and Omi, which I know Opa and Oma is Grandma and Grandpa in German, so I'm assuming this is something like that. But I'm assuming it says "Let's go, Grandma and Grandpa." She stuck her sign out on the roadway. Didn't I guess didn't realize how close she was to the riders. Didn't get it out of the way. Tony Martin, one of the veteran riders, he hits the sign, kind of expecting her to jump back out because this happens a lot. People jump out.
People jump out
yeah,
and then jump back.
And they jump back. This is a common thing, but she didn't jump back. And,
she stood there.
And that led to an accident that
she took the shot, man.
That involved half the peloton. Half the field went down in that crash. And one rider was forced to withdraw, but there were numerous injuries. And it's just an ugly thing. By the way, she's been arrested today.
I'm not sure what you're arresting her for.
Well,
I'm not sure what the charge is.
Well, I don't know either, but I'm sure it's French. And it's different rules. There's different rules in France. You know what I mean? I mean, you're over there, and I don't know. Hell, I don't know. But I don't know what the charge is. But you've disrupted a major sporting event. There's got to be a charge. If you go streaking across a field, or you disrupt an NBA game, even if you're not streaking, if you're not naked, you're going to get arrested. Disobedience, disturbing the peace, something, right? And she caused injury, so now it's assault of some kind, right?
I just don't know. You specifically have this 2,000-mile race, and you specifically have it on courses and in places where people can just be, like. Did you not expect that this was an eventual problem? You have to, and I've said this 1,000 times lately, you have to take the stupid away from people.
Wow.
Because they will do the stupid things if they have the chance. And you, the Tour de France committee, gave the whole better part of France the ability to be stupid.
She wanted to make sure that her grandma and grandpa knew she was at the race.
Grandma and grandpa are going down in history.
Right? She jumped out there so she could be seen by the camera on the car. And yeah, bad. She took out a whole team's worth of riders, by the way. Couple of them. The whole team went down.
I have a so it says the police their investigation is for manifestly deliberate violation of an obligation of safety or prudence.
See, it's French.
It's basically saying you're acting out of line.
Yeah,
and we don't like it.
In the United States, we call it disturbing the peace.
You made a mockery of our national sport, but you did put it on every TV across the country or across the world.
She's famous,
and the sport is more famous because of it. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't know. You couldn't tell me if they ran it last year. I don't think they did, but I don't know.
I don't think they ran it last year.
No, they did.
They did run it last year, but it wasn't until September.
See, that's not.
It wasn't
until
September.
Sign. They don't even know if you ran it.
It was it was later in the year. They canceled it when it normally is, which is June, July, and then they ran it later.
It's just nuts. But the bottom line is, you have to take the stupid away from people. Right. You can't let fans be this close to the course. It's a problem. And now that you have players, and that player has an absolute right to sue. The Tour de France committee, whoever runs it, he has an absolute right because you allowed spectators to be this close.
I would disagree with you in saying that if you've ever raced in that race before, you know that that's a possibility. You're taking that risk on yourself because you've been there before.
The question is, should it be a possibility?
No, but it is. And you absolutely know that someone could get in your way.
Well, whether or not you know that they could and whether or not they should be able to are two different things. Yeah. And one implies negligence on the group that puts on the event.
Different country.
They have 70 police officers in front and 70 police officers behind. Can no one make sure people are off the road?
It's a different country. You're talking about American laws and the way Americans operate versus the way French people operate in Europe in general.
Well,
And it's a
I'm
much
just gonna translate it across because you have Americans participating in the event.
it doesn't work
You have
that way.
people from all over the country participate or all over the world participating in the event.
Yeah.
But bottom line is that if you know that this is a possibility, you have to take the stupid away from people. Stop allowing the possibility.
In America, they would have had to have blocked off the entire raceway, and they would
Probably,
have had to have taken the stupid away. But
Apparently, they have to in France as well.
this normally doesn't happen in Europe. This is not a.
It's
this is
2,000
not-
miles. You can't just throw up barriers for 2,000
Correct.
miles. So I
That's
get the
correct.
problem with it. That being said,
but
it's 2,000 miles in 3 segments.
It's not a normal
more
thing
manageable.
that happens. So that's what I'm saying. This is not something I've never seen this before. I've been watching Tour de France.
Regardless, if you're the guy who gets so hurt that you can no longer participate because a fan gets in the way, at the very least you have a lawsuit against the fan.
Oh sure.
But more than likely, the people who host the event and participate in maintaining your safety
Yeah, that's in America.
are what's it called? Are liable, are culpable. I don't think you'd win it because you'd have to sue them in France for a French thing, and it'd be very hard to get them to go against their own, the creators of their sport and things like that. But it still seems practical. It still seems practical that you have a legitimate gripe against the Tour de France people for not giving you an adequate level of safety from spectators. That guy had nowhere to go.
Yeah, he couldn't get out of the way.
If he went to the left, he's slamming into somebody.
Right.
If he goes to the right, he's slamming farther into this person.
Yeah.
He had nowhere to
Or off
go.
the road.
And despite a large group of people in terms of police presence and cameramen and event workers, no one managed this situation properly.
Yeah.
But again, this is the American me thinking how stupid Americans are. Apparently, that's bleeding over into other countries.
Yeah, well, that's probably true. That's you're not wrong.
Who knows? That might have been an American person. We'll find out.
German. Anyway,
we'll find out.
All right, let's talk about Major League Baseball real quick.
MLB.
Yeah, so the MLB ejected its first pitcher under the new crackdown on foreign substances. I don't know what you want to call it, but let's call it the
the war on
the sticky inquisition. I don't know.
The war on drugs. I don't know.
What do you want to call it? So Hector Santiago of the Seattle Mariners was given a 10-game suspension by Major League Baseball for having a foreign substance on his glove during a game against the Chicago White Sox. This was on Sunday. Did I say it was on Sunday?
Yeah.
It was on Sunday. Santiago is, of course, appealing that suspension, which means the suspension will not be enforced until the appeal is heard.
Right.
Which is, par for the course, I guess, that you want to investigate the whole thing. But, I mean, if you got crap on your glove, you got crap on your glove. The pitchers are not happy. Pitchers have been angry about it, the crackdown. But to be
sensitive pitchers are unhappy.
To be fair, if you're cheating, shouldn't you be caught? I mean, I suppose to an extent, cheating happens in every sport, and you can't get rid of it all. But this is different than, using outside things. I mean, what happened if that was to happen in basketball? Oh, well, yeah, but I used a lever. I used a baseball bat to help me make that play in basketball. That's the equivalent. You use something that isn't part of the game to do something that you shouldn't be doing, and you shouldn't be doing it, more or less.
The problem is that according to these pitchers, baseball, MLB, commissioner, whoever you want to call it, baseball has allowed it to happen. They have been okay with it for a long time. They have been okay with cheating. Yep. And then all of a sudden, because there's a new product or a couple new products and pitchers are throwing at incredible rates, all of a sudden they're cracking down on it and they're like, what the hell, man? You've been letting us do this for 10, 15 years and all of a sudden you now have a problem with it? I get the pitchers being upset with that. Because that's baseball who, if you think in any way that baseball didn't know this was going on,
I do.
You're delusional. Baseball was well aware.
Sure.
Baseball was aware that Barry Bonds was juicing. Baseball was aware that Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire were juicing. They were well aware. It was exciting. It brought eyeballs to the TV sets, which is what they needed because the sport, unfortunately, is dying in terms of viewership, in terms of interest, in terms of next generation thought processing. It is not going to survive another 50 years. All right. It just won't. It does not have that staying power. It doesn't evolve enough.
Okay.
The pitching this year, though, was evolving at a rate that I think was almost too fast for baseball. That's why they change the balls every couple of years. That's why they adjust the density of baseballs and home runs go up or down. You think that's because your batters are better? You think that's because, all of a sudden my Cubs are all of a sudden better at batting? Hell no. It's because the ball flies 40 feet farther, 50 feet farther, 100 feet farther because they changed the density of the damn ball. That's what happened. Has very little to do with my batter hitting better all of a sudden, usually. And it has very little to do with these pitchers being better all of a sudden. The only person that's the exception to that is DeGrom, who is, I don't know how to describe him. He's a generational talent in terms of pitching. Dude is outside of this planet. But it's just one of those things, man. It's a frustrating thing. I get pitchers are upset, but dude, you're cheating. And you're cheating. And yeah, I get that they allowed you to cheat, and you did, and now you're being called out on it.
Yeah.
But dude, you're cheating. Chill.
Right.
It's a frustrating process.
I mean, this has been going on. To be fair, this has been going on since 1989. So I think. Look here.
What's that shit on your chest?
Crisco.
Bardol. Vagisil. Any one of them will give you another 2 to 3 inches drop on your curveball. Of course, if the umps are watching me close, I just rub a little jalapeno inside my nose, get it running, and if I need to load the ball up a little, just wipe my nose. You put snot on the ball?
So apparently that's been going on forever.
Yeah.
So,
Crisco, Vagisil, and snot.
And it doesn't surprise me. You know what I mean? It would not surprise me if that was actually what was happening. I mean, forever. And like you said, it's been going on forever. They've probably been doing that forever. So,
and they've but baseball has allowed it.
Right.
Baseball has allowed it to exist and grow and become a thing. Do you remember the big crackdown in the late thousands or late 90s, early thousands of bats, corking bats?
Right.
That was a huge ordeal for about 3 years.
And PEDs.
And PEDs. And then just disappeared.
Let me just say this real quick about Hector Santiago. So if this helps make anybody's case. He's been pitching in the league for, 10 years? 2011 he came in. Prior to this year, pitching with Seattle, he had pitched parts of 9 seasons with an ERA of 4.78 and a strikeout to walk ratio that is just a little under 2, 1.8 or 1.9. So 1.9 strikeouts to every walk. And that was with the White Sox, the Angels, the Twins, and the Mets. This year with Seattle, and he didn't pitch in the bigs in 2020. He was out. So in 2021, he comes back. And now with Seattle, in 17 innings pitched, he's given up 5 earned runs. It's an ERA of 2.65, and his strikeout to walk ratio is 3.29. So his strikeouts have gone way up. Walks are down. ERA's down. Well, now we know why, maybe.
Yeah,
because he was probably cheating. So why he didn't start that 10 years ago, right? So his numbers all look good. I don't know. But right away you can go, your numbers are really different than they normally are. What happened? All of a sudden you learn to pitch at age 32? I don't know if that's true. But anyway, long story short, that's part of what the Major League Baseball sees when they see these things. That, I know it's supposed to be random and all, but I'm guessing that there are probably targeted things where you see somebody like DeGrom. DeGrom's been checked. They haven't found anything yet.
He's been checked a bunch of times.
Yeah, and it's because of his ERA and his strikeouts to walks, and he looks fantastic even with a hurt shoulder.
It's been incredible.
It's been amazing. All right, so let's go back to the trivia question because we can do that. Well, no, let's do your minute.
My minute.
Yeah. So in a segment we want to call "Your Mother Thinks I Talk Too Much." Parker has the floor to talk about whatever he wants for the next minute or so. So take it away, Parker.
All right, next minute or so, we're going to talk about controlling your damn kids in public, specifically the zoo. I went to the zoo today with Cassie, my wife, and at the zoo, we saw a bunch of kids being, well, you can say they're being kids, but they're being dumb kids in public. One of the things I talked about off air was a kid ran up about 20 feet, 30 feet in front of his parents and, ran up to the giraffe enclosure, grabbed a handful of rocks and threw them immediately at the glass. And it's like, why is your kid 20, 30 feet in front of you? Why is he not in a stroller? Why is he not in your arms? Why did you let him get that far away? You have to take the stupid away from children just like you have to do it for adults. You cannot allow kids to be kids. I watched dumb kids in lines, being reckless. I watched kids, pounding on glass that has big signs that say "Don't pound on the glass," with their parents going, no, just let it happen. It's not that big a deal. Oh, they're just kids being kids. That is the worst excuse anybody can ever make for why kids are doing something stupid. If your child is doing something stupid, and I'm not talking about putting some dirt in their mouth that doesn't affect anybody else. I'm talking about slapping on some glass, throwing something or whatever. If your kid is doing something stupid, it's because you, for the most part, have failed to pay enough attention. And for the most, kids at the zoo are like what, 6 and under, I think. So they're not old. They're not older kids and things like that. But they're all doing something stupid. They're all yelling something. They're all screaming something. You walk into the bird area, the aviary or whatever it is, and it says, no loud noises. First thing a child walks in, goes, because there's a duck in there.
Being right.
Right? It's cool, but stop your kid. Just have a moment where you say, hey, before we go in here, can you be cool? And if they don't act like they can be cool, then don't take them into the damn thing. It sucks. I'm sure it sucks as parents to not be able to do some fun things because your kids are assholes. But that's not everyone else's problem.
Well, I don't know if you know my kids, but I have
I'm one of those.
definitely taken them away from places and just walked away.
It's what you gotta do.
It has happened more than once.
It is what you gotta do. Just take the kids away from the damn area.
I'm not saying they were unruly, but Phoenix 130, Clippers 103, 11.7 seconds left to go in the fourth. Phoenix is going to head to the NBA Finals, and they're going to have a couple. They're going to have a couple days off. It looks like. So time to rest and get healthy. I would put my money on them against either of the other two opponents.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, so
it's done.
Maybe. I mean, I'm not going to say that. I'm not, because I didn't think Atlanta would get where they are. So there's a chance, but
Atlanta's riding they beat an overrated New York team, then they beat an injured, the Knicks team, then they beat an injured Nets team.
Yeah.
And now they're playing a injured Bucks team.
Sixers team. That's who they beat.
Oh, that's right, the Sixers. Wait, who beat the Nets?
The Bucks.
Oh, the Bucks beat the Nets.
Yeah.
They beat injured Nets team. That's right. They beat. Oh, that's right, because the Hawks beat the Sixers after Joel Embiid got hurt.
Yeah, well,
and was dealing with the weird meniscus tear or whatever it is, and then Ben Simmons couldn't shoot free throws. Yeah. So they beat a trash 76ers team.
Well,
they have walked to this point, and now they're playing an injured Bucks team.
But I think we've long said that the East is trash. So
yeah, we've said it for like 7 or 8 years.
All right, so we got trivia question answer.
Trivia question.
The trivia question was, for those of you who are still with me,
right?
Chauncey Billups is the 15th head coach in Portland Trailblazers franchise history. Only one previous coach had a winning playoff record. Who was it? Parker?
Okay, so I know all the recent coaches going back to Carlissimo.
Mm-hmm.
I think in like the mid 90s or late 90s or whatever the heck that was. I don't know a ton of dudes before that, but I know that I feel like it's a trick. So I'm gonna go with Mike Dunleavy because I'm pretty sure he had a short career in Portland, and he didn't have a losing record. I don't know if he had a winning. I actually don't know if he had a losing record or winning record, but I feel like he did really well. So I'm gonna go with Mike Dunleavy.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that you're.
I'm working it out in my own head, and I'm like, I don't know.
It sounds like you still have questions. I mean.
Okay.
It's not Mike Dunleavy. So does that help you? It is.
Kinda.
Yeah, you said you had 2 guesses. So who's the second guess?
Oh, my second guess was the old player. Oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
He had the same name as the dude from Golden State, the underhand thrower. What is his name?
Well, that's Rick Barry, the underhand
thrower. Rick something.
Yeah, Adelman.
Is that it?
Rick Adelman is correct. That is correct.
Coach would not have been my guess.
Coach of the Blazers from 88 to 94. He had a 36-33 playoff record. That included two NBA Finals appearances.
This is piecing together things that I don't know entirely. Like, I knew this guy's name and I knew that he was a coach, but kind of knew his name and I kind of knew he was a coach. I didn't know much about him.
Right. So he let's just to be clear, the average coaching changes since 1970. I looked this up. So the average team has changed coaches 14 and a half times since 1970. So the Blazers are right there. 15 is right on the average number.
That's fair.
The Detroit Pistons have changed coaches 21 times in that time. And the Utah Jazz have only had 8 head coaches since 1974 when they were brought into the league as the New Orleans Jazz. So, but that's pretty low. 8 is pretty good. So Portland's right there, right on average. Rick Adelman used to play for the Blazers. He actually played for a lot of teams. He played for the San Diego Rockets. He actually was on a team with a bunch of former NBA coaches back in the day. He played for a while. Anyway, so Rick Adelman's the answer, which
Nice.
that includes the heyday of Terry Porter and Clyde Drexler and Kevin Duckworth and others.
Sounds right.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's your answer. I know. Oh, I didn't even show him. I didn't even show the pictures. There he is.
There he is.
There he is. That's him back in the day, and there's going to be more. So just let everybody hear those. So next week, that's all we have for today. We're going to be back next Wednesday, July the 7th. More NBA, NHL playoff coverage. Provided that Montreal puts up some sort of fight, because that series might be over by the time we take the air next Wednesday.
It doesn't look like they're going to, but we'll see.
And the finals, the NBA finals, we should be at NBA finals game 1 or 2 by that point in time.
Right.
But we'll have that coverage for you. We'll also talk about more Major League Baseball. We're going to have some soccer. We didn't even talk about Euro soccer this week, but they'll have a winner. They're in the knockout stages. They'll have a winner, and we'll talk about that next week. And we got a lot of stuff to talk about. There's more Formula One, like I said. They're doing Austria again, so we got a lot more sports to talk about next week. So
yep,
pretty exciting. Again, we are live streaming on YouTube every weekend. We're on Twitter at Lamm Sports, on Facebook under the Best Lamm Sports Show. You can email us, lambsports@gmail.com. I want to thank our sponsors, The Range in Yakima, Boss Kitty Yarns, Stave and Stone Wine Estates in Hood River. This has been a Brain Rock production, a division of Lonely Tree Media, LLC. We want to thank everyone for listening. We'll see you all next week. Have a great weekend.